Well, it's that time of year. Merry Christmas. So it's been an interesting year, so I thought it'd be good to have a quick chat to you guys about what's gone on, what 2023 looks like, and just ask for some feedback, I suppose, on what we're doing here on the YouTube, and see if there's anything you want covered in the next year, because we're always interested to see how that all goes. Normally I'd tell you to like and subscribe and all that kind of YouTube stuff, but if you're watching this, you've probably got a genuine interest in what we do anyway. So thanks very much, and that's kind of where I want to start with this and say thank you very much for everybody that watches the videos and has subscribed, particularly because so many people who watch the videos don't subscribe, so it's cool if you do, and generally you people that are watching this video are probably those people, so thank you very much. It's really, really good, and it just, I don't know, it's quite nice to get some feedback that actually what we take the time to research, write and record is actually enjoyed by people, and it's great reading all the different comments and things like that, and it is actually quite a, I don't know, full-on job almost to keep up and make sure we can reply to all those comments and give some thoughts where people put them in, but we do our absolute best to. We normally do those on a Sunday, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer depending how complicated they are. If it's a great thanks for the video, we can go in there quickly. If it's a I've got this interesting tax question, we can't often do one-to-one advice in a comment because we're not allowed, basically, but we do try and give some general advice around some of those things, and they can take a little bit longer. But if you have put a comment on there, hopefully we've got back to you, so thanks very much. But yeah, it really does, really nice to see, basically, so thanks very much for that. And especially when you think back to, I don't know, a few years ago when 23 people used to watch the videos, it's quite cool. So the downside to it is if you do put out an unedited video by accident, which we may have done recently, thanks to our marketing team and a little bit of a mix-up, then it also means that a lot of people get to see that. So if you were one of the enjoyers of that particular video, apologies. I don't think I swore on it. Sometimes when I record these, I do get a little bit frustrated because it's a weird one. I love accountancy, tax, business, all that kind of stuff. I don't love recording to camera, and it can be quite difficult. So luckily, I think in that one I didn't actually swear. So, but if you did watch it, apologies. Wasn't very professional. We somehow we just missed it during the period and ended up with the unedited one out, but it's been replaced, so there we go. But if you did enjoy it, Merry Christmas. That was your Christmas present. We didn't do a Christmas video this year. I might reshare some of the car crashes we've done internally as a business over the last couple of years for a bit of Christmas cheer. But yeah, so that was that. But anyway, so 2022, thanks very much for you all. In the business world, it's been really quite an up and down sort of year. I think for most small businesses, so us as business accountants, all we deal with is businesses all day long, it's been pretty good, I think. I think most people have enjoyed a really quite positive year, but I think as the year's gone on, it's got tougher. Rising costs, rise in inflation, cost is on people's mind thanks to the media. So we've seen a lot of businesses where their clients or customers are then sort of hassling them down about price or trying to renegotiate, or sometimes just cutting it dead because they're like, look, I think I can't afford it. And we often see that in financial times where it's tough, is people panic cut. And as accountants to business owners, we always say, don't do that. Like marketing's a prime example. The amount of people go, just cut all their marketing budget. It's like, well, you still need customers, right? So what we're going to do, reviewing if you're going to get the best investment out of it, have you got the best setup? All those kind of things have been quite important. So I know our clients are in a good place for that, but we have seen some of our clients whose clients or customers have been in that zone. So that's definitely something we've seen people dealing with. There's also been a trend. So Xero, the software provider, they gather a lot of data for a lot of small businesses. And what they're seeing is that the increase in late payments is carrying on. So I think in January, I remember doing 2022, I remember doing seeing some figures where it was like 23K-ish was the average that a small business was overdue owed. So, your invoices have gone overdue and the average of that is 23K. It's up to 30 in recent figures, 30K. So you can see there's a trend of non-payment. And I think really in the small business world particularly, as we move into 2023, that's going to be something that's going to become more prominent, particularly the smaller the business, because people's mortgages will be going up. There's a lot of people on nice fixed deals that are coming to an end and the rates are still relatively high. I think it's the media have stopped really overinflating it, but there was a period, probably about around the Liz Truss type government, where fixed rates were nearly 6%. But you could get cheaper, but for a lot of people they were nearly 6%. What's happened now is they're coming down again slowly, but you're still going to jump to maybe like 4%, where you might have been on like 2 point something, and that's quite a few £100 difference in your bank account. So, and for the very smallest businesses, when it comes to am I going to pay somebody on time or am I going to pay my mortgage on time, I think there's only one winner there, and that's going to be a problem. So it's been a constant challenge, and the bigger businesses aren't immune to this as well. They just have a lot of power to be like, well, we're just not going to pay it. What are you going to do? Type issues, because they know by the time you've pursued it through the courts or debt collectors, they'd have paid it. So like it's a bad game, and it's been a problem. I know the Federation of Small Businesses have been doing this for a long time, but it's going to be a problem. So the advice that we're given really with this is to make sure that you're on top of your credit control. You look at your terms as well. Like, do you need to be on 30-day terms? You know, you've done the work, not really. You know, some of the big businesses you work with, they might have contractual terms that say that's what you take it or leave it. But we see so many business owners at a small business level, they're like, here, have 30 days, and they're invoicing after the work's complete. It's like, it's a lot of time. You just don't need to be that way. So definitely review that. Review, are you credit controlling regularly? Have you got records that tell you? Are you in software? You know, can you literally print a report off that tells you who you owe what, who owes you what, and what's your kind of regular diary entry, especially as a really small business, to go and make sure that you prioritize chasing that money, because no one likes that. Like, even now, you know, a business our size, we hate collecting money. You know, luckily we don't have to do it very often, but it is this stage where you're just like, it's just nobody wants to do it. It's not a nice conversation. So just, do put it in your diary and make sure moving into particularly Q1 and Q2 next year, you're keeping an eye on that, because I think that's going to be where the challenges are. And in the tax world, we've seen loads of changes over the year as well. So forget what's going on with, you know, the actual wider economic sense. In the tax world, we saw Liz Truss's government come out and say, yeah, we're going to slash everything in pro-growth, and then we've seen an absolute U-turn, and that's all moved around, and now it's like, small business owners, the dividends are still more expensive. You know, the corporation tax is going back up for a lot of companies and small business owners, depending on how much you earn. And that landscape doesn't look as rosy. It's not disastrous. It's not, you know, like World War II levels or anything, but it's still a hit. And then we've got that kind of weird stealth tax where everything's being frozen, and therefore in theory you're being dragged into higher rates of tax and things like that. So the actual tax landscape's not amazing, so it's even more of a reason to make sure that you're doing everything as efficiently as you can. You know, you're getting the best advice, you're making sure that if you're a limited company owner, you're withdrawing your money in the right way. Whether you're a limited company owner or a sole trader, you're also getting in there and making sure that, you know, you're getting everything in your accounts that you could from a tax deduction point of view. You're not missing out. Like, we see people scared. You know, they come to us and say, well, yeah, I've just put this in because I didn't want to get in trouble. So you're not going to get in trouble if you do it correctly. And that's the problem with a self-assessment, is you get two people at the different ends of the scale, don't you? You get the ones that just lob everything in and never get caught. And then they're like, well, I just put all this through. And the other person go, well, I don't put that through. And I'm being told I can't put it through. And, you know, but you want to be in that ground of, look, I've done my research, or I've got professional advice, and I am claiming absolutely everything I can do to keep that tax bill down, because it's no different. And I remember somebody shooting me a few years ago for this, saying, "Oh, you're promoting, tax stealing and all this." And I'm like, no. I just want people to utilise the law. You know, the reason it's in law is because people identified that this was something that, you know, needed tax relief on it. It's no different. You wouldn't go to an NHS nurse and moan about the fact they get a tax deduction for their uniform being laundered, right? It's there for a reason, and it's the same with a small business owner. The problem is you've got 22,000 pages behind us to kind of navigate to make sure that you're getting all the right deductions. It's crazy, really, but that's where we are, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. So from a 2023 position, just make sure, you're happy that you're getting everything that you should be in there. And if you are listening, I know there's a video I've done where it's like, why does my accountant not let me put through this? And I ran one in that one, so go watch that if you haven't. But be very conscious of listening to other people, what other people are doing. You want to do what you're doing. But at the same point, you want to keep an ear out, because they might be onto something that you haven't quite heard of yet, or your current accountant hasn't, thought about for you, or you haven't, more likely, you haven't had a chat with them about what you're thinking, because that's the other thing, is so much is possible, but sometimes you need that two-way conversation to kind of talk about the possibilities. So all those kind of things as we go into 2023 is going to be important. But payment systems, credit control, how can people pay you easily with less friction, credit control, changing your payment terms, all these things with regard to getting cash in, I think is going to be a very big theme of 2023. And then hopefully if they can get inflation under control, this will start to bottom out and level out, and we might see some more exciting tax announcements as we get towards the autumn statement. What I hope we don't end up in is a situation where we get to the autumn statement next year, and then they're like, oh, guess what, guys, it's still bad times, so here's a load more tax rises or non-tax, band tweaks or whatever. So a bit of stability at the moment, though, is a good thing at least. And then the other thing in the small business world that I think is important, we talk about cash because I think that's primarily the thing that's going to cause you problems if you don't have it. But that's kind of like a lag indicator. The leading indicator for that there's going to be a problem is your profits on paper. So you see lots of different things in businesses where sometimes you see a really profitable business on paper. If you looked at it, they did this many sales, this was the costs, and that should be the profit. but that doesn't always translate into cash because they collect it badly or they don't get paid or all these kind of things. So you can go out of business even though you're profitable. And you see the other way around where you've got quite a lot of cash coming in, but eventually you end up in a problem because you're not making money or enough money as it goes on. And then suddenly before you know it, you're like, I can't pay my VAT bill or I can't pay my tax. Why is that? And it's because your profits are disappearing. So another point for you into 2023, just make sure you've got a system for going in and checking your profit and loss report. So again, if you're in software, you can literally go in and have a look at this. The danger to that is that if you don't know what you're looking at, you could presume it's going okay or it's really bad, but it's just because there's something maybe in the profit and loss that shouldn't be in there. There's a timing difference. So you paid for a year's worth of insurance on day one of the year and it looks like you've lost a load of money, but obviously that's a 12-month cost in reality. There could be all these things, but that aside, I just want you to go and look at it. Make sure, again, like make a diary entry on a Friday or on a Monday morning, I am going to review my finances. I'm just going to see where I am, how much profit I'm making, and keep a track of it. And again, there's lots of videos on the channels. There's one where we talk about how to make more money in your business, which is really talking about margins. And the margins, as a bit of a recap, is if you say gross margin, which is the biggest one for me, is you're looking at, that's the sales. That's what it costs to do those sales. Forget rent, forget everything else. Just if you're selling chairs, that's the sale of my chair. That's the materials it costs to make my chair. And if there was some labor that you had to pay somebody to build, that would be in there as well. And then you've got this gross profit. And that's the bit that we see getting eroded, because either you don't change your prices or your costs are going up and you don't do anything, and that can disappear very quickly and have a really negative impact on your business. So checking those kind of margins and just checking your numbers and your profit, have a look around, see what you spent. You might surprise yourself sometimes. And the other thing I would look at, it won't be on your profit and loss report, but however you find it, normally it's on your balance sheet, they'll call it, in the software. Or if you haven't got that and you've got a spreadsheet, just look at how much money you're drawing and just keep an eye on that, because as a business owner, it can be very easy to think, I've got this pot of money, just going to keep drawing. But again, you could find that actually you're drawing more than the profits that are available. And that's very possible. And you might think, well, surely if I'm not making any profit, I've not got enough cash. But that's not true, particularly in a world where you're VAT registered, say, and you're getting paid a load of extra money that's not yours. You only have to hand over once a quarter. It's there, you can draw it, but when you come to pay that bill in a quarter's time, you might not have enough money. So keeping an eye on the various documents is really important. So do that. Have a look at your numbers, profit and loss, and this gross profits margin as it's known. And again, there's plenty of videos on the channel where we talk about that particular issue. So go and have a look at that, pricing and things like that. Just check out the videos. And then finally, I want to just talk to you about if you're new into business, maybe you're year 1, year 2, quite often, so the stats in the UK are that around half of businesses fail in the first 5 years. And we see a lot of this year 2 and 3 businesses that just bail out. They're like, I'm done, it's not working. The problem with it is, and I'd never say to somebody carry on doing it and just throw money away, but you do have to look at, can we trim what we're doing? Can we have a look? And we have plenty of conversations with clients about this. They're like, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. I think I'm done. If you're not loving it and you're not enjoying it, that's a different story. I think if you're not loving it, you're not enjoying it, then do look to exit. Because are you going to do this for the next 20 years? No, you're not going to enjoy it. You're just going to get yourself in problems. But if you really do love it and it's just not going the way you want, keep working on it. Seek professional advice and just look at, maybe you can change the business model. Maybe you're going to have to work harder. I know a lot of people don't like that because they say, well, I do work hard. It's like, do you? There's different levels, right, of working, and I don't want anybody to go crazy, but it depends how much you want to make it work. But a lot of the time it's actually down to activity. It's kind of like, what are you doing? And that's what we see, is the types of things people are doing. Or they say, well, I can't possibly raise my prices, for example, and we say, well, what's the alternative? You're going to go out of business in 6 months. Then they do it, and they're like, yeah, no one complained. So there's lots of things you can do. But the reason I want to mention this one is it is around this time of year. I think a lot of people reflect on, do I want to do this next year? And if you honestly don't, I think is probably the easiest way. But if you're just tough and you're thinking of giving up, like you're not good enough, that's a different story, because the chances are you can do it. You might just need some support around it to learn some new information, or just look at something in a different way, or change the way you're doing things. Look at the different actions you're taking, and you might need to just put your resources into a different area, or just your actions, what you're actually doing, into doing something slightly different. But so many times we see people think about it. I don't know if you've ever seen that kind of internet image where there's a guy digging along to gold, and he gives up just before he's about the gold pot. And that often is small business, because it takes so long to get your name out there and get everybody to know you, and then you give up just at the point because you're actually running out of cash, or you're thinking of putting a lot in and not getting a lot back. So like, if you're enjoying it and that's you, consider whether you want to give it another go for a bit longer and just do something different. Obviously, carrying on doing the same thing is unlikely to yield the same results, but that's not always true. I find this like with networking. People go out networking and then suddenly they just give it up. And it's like, but you only did it for 6 months. That's not long enough to really get your name out there and people be in the zone for where they want your service. So all these types of things. So that's kind of my Christmas message to you, in that if you're thinking, look, I'm just over Christmas, you're a bit sad about it and you're like, shall I give it up? If you love it, think about what you could do to do it differently, seek advice. But if honestly you just don't enjoy it, maybe don't do it. That's that. So whatever your New Year's resolutions are, make sure to get in there that you're going to review your finances regularly. That's going to be the takeaway for this. I hope you've enjoyed this. Before you go though, please do let me know in the comments if you want anything for us to cover. We're always interested in what you want covered. We've always got lists, but as you'd imagine, with nearly 200 videos on the channel now, we feel like we've covered most things. And we're going to be renewing videos. We've got a Zero versus QuickBooks renew to do. We've got new limited company videos. We've got loads to redo, but it's whether there's any particular topics that you're interested in that you think we want to talk about, so do drop those below. And in the meantime, have a great Christmas and a new year, and I'll see you in the next one.